Haley again. We're gonna do some yoga and some stretching today, and I'm gonna throw in a little bit more yoga than last time, just to get our bodies moving a little bit more and try out some different stretches. And yeah, let us go ahead and get started. Okay. All right, so if you're on the mat, you might want a block, or if you don't have a block, like anything will work. Kettlebells. Kettlebells would totally work, or like a stool or something, just in case you need a little bit more support in some of these moves. But we're just gonna go ahead and start in child's pose. So bring your knees to the width of your mat, tuck your toes under and push back. You're gonna reach your hands forward towards the front of your mat, and you're gonna be pushing your hips back towards the back of your mat. You can rock your forehead side to side, loosening up your neck. If you want to be a little bit more activated, you can push up onto the tips of your fingers. All right, so now we're going to go up onto all fours here. Here you want to make sure that your shoulders are over your wrists and that your hips are directly over your knees, keeping them about hip width distance apart. Try not to hyperextend your arms like I do. And try and rotate the kind of inner surface of your elbows towards the front of the room. That's going to activate your shoulders, kind of get everything in line. All right, so you're going to drop down into cow pose, lifting your head up, dropping your belly down towards the earth. And you're going to pull up through your core and drop your head down, tucking your abdominals in. And we'll just do a few of those. I like to breathe in when I'm dropping into cow pose, and breathe out when I'm pulling up into cat pose. All right, so now while we're here, you can go back to a neutral tabletop position, and we're gonna rotate around on our wrists a little bit, loosening up that area. So you can just go in little circles around your wrists to the right. We'll do 5 to the right and 5 to the left. And go the other direction. Okay. All right, now that we got our wrists loosened up and our back a little loose, we are going to push your hands out a little bit farther from underneath your shoulders. Tuck your toes and lift your hips up to the sky into downward facing dog. Remember here, you can keep your knees bent. You're going to want to lift up out of your shoulders, creating space in your back and also between your ears and your shoulders. Something to think about with your hand placement is keeping your index finger pointed towards the front of your mat. To lessen the pressure on your wrists, try and put more weight into your entire hand, including your fingers. All right, so we're gonna slowly walk our feet up to the front of the mat. Go ahead and hang here in ragdoll. So letting everything fall forward and resting your chest on your knees or your thighs, and then bringing your arms up to hang in between each other. And sway side to side. And then whichever arm was on top, flip that, and let's put the other arm on top. So switching your grip. Really letting go of any control you have over your neck and letting it hang. All right, go ahead and put your hands down to the earth, and I want you to lift up halfway, putting your palms on your shins, flattening your back, and straightening out your neck. So neutral gaze straight down at the ground, and then you're gonna drop back down, and let's lift all the way up. All right, from here, I want you to cactus your arms and look up. In this position, you don't want to crunch in your neck or in your low back. You're just gonna wanna kind of look up and gently lean backwards if you feel comfortable doing so. Back up tall and dive forward, back into forward fold. Come back into this halfway lift, flat back, neck straight, gaze down at the floor. All right, and now we're gonna go into a chaturanga. So bring your feet back so you'll be in a high plank position. When you're here, I'm sure you guys all know good plank positioning, probably better than me, but you're gonna lean forward on your toes. You're gonna keep your wrists just below your shoulders. Rotate your elbows so that the crease is facing the wall in front of you. And you're gonna drop down to a low plank. Push up into an upward facing dog. In this position, you don't want to drop into your shoulders. You want to keep lifted up high, and you want to activate your legs. So that means straightening your legs up. That might mean that your hips and your legs are not touching the ground. All right, now we're going to rotate up into downward facing dog. For that, you can just tuck your toes and push back, or you can go back through tabletop. Now that we're back here in downward facing dog, go ahead and walk your feet. So just letting one heel drop at a time. Remembering to lift up out of your shoulders, keeping space from your ears. And remember to rotate your hips up toward the ceiling. All right, so we're gonna do that whole sequence one more time. This time I'm not gonna cue it as much. So step your feet up towards the front of your mat. Grasp your elbows and hang. And switch arms. Okay, halfway lift, flat back, gaze at the ground, all the way down, lift up. Cactus, don't crunch your neck or your low back. And back down to forward fold. Lift halfway up. Hands on the ground, step back in a plank, pull forward, get your alignment right, drop down to low plank, up into upward facing dog, and downward facing dog. Just a quick little tidbit. So when you're coming from upward facing dog into downward facing dog, I want to show you an alternative. So you're here in upward facing dog. An alternative would be drop your knees, tuck your toes into all fours here, and then pushing back into downward facing dog. I wanted to stop and show you that because I'm going to throw in a little vinyasa flow to help loosen up our hips, and so that might be a helpful little trick for you to do instead. All right, so back into downward facing dog. All right, so go ahead and walk the dog, as they say, dropping your heels one at a time, keeping your knees bent as much as you need to, just to keep your back flat and hips rotated towards the ceiling. All right, we're gonna lift the right foot straight up behind you. pull your knee in towards your chest, tucking your abdominals in. And then you're gonna set your foot on the ground in between your hands into a runner's lunge. All right, from here, you're gonna raise your arms up over your head, keep your balance. If you need to, you can absolutely drop to one knee in this position. Here, you're activated in crescent lunge. You're gonna want your right knee directly over your right heel. And you want to lean forward in your left toes. So rather than having your heel back like this, pull it forward. Another thing you're gonna wanna think about is taking your hips, rotating them towards the front of the room so that you're not letting one hip or the other fall too far back. You should feel the stretch right here in the front of your hip. Okay, now we're gonna rotate into warrior two. You're gonna twist your left foot so that it is parallel with the back edge of your mat. And you're gonna keep this right knee bent over your right heel. And you're gonna wanna make sure that this knee stays straight ahead over that heel. You don't want it to tuck in. You wanna push it out. And just take a couple breaths, keeping your gaze over your right middle finger. All right, so we're gonna windmill our arms down so that you're back in this runner's lunge. You're gonna go ahead and pull your leg back and we'll be back in a plank. Lean forward, get your positioning, and low plank, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing on the left side now. So raise your left heel, pull your knee between your arms, and you're gonna want to pull your abdominals up and set your left foot between your hands. We're here in a runner's lunge, and we are going to lift up into crescent lunge. So go ahead and raise your arms up over your head. Okay. Now that we're here, think about your positioning. Remember, you can drop your right knee to the ground if you need to. You're gonna wanna keep your hips square to the front, right hip pulling forward, left hip pulling back, and rotating that pelvis flat towards the front of the room. Your left knee, you want directly over your left heel. And your right foot, you're gonna wanna push forward onto your toes so that your heel is elevated. All right, now we're gonna rotate into warrior two. Arms out wide, left knee over your left heel, back right foot, parallel with your mat. Gaze is looking over your left middle finger. Take a few breaths here. All right, so you're going to windmill your arms down towards your mat so that we're back in a runner's lunge. Pull your leg back, we're in plank, low plank, upward facing dog, and downward facing dog. All right, so we're gonna run through that 2 more times just to keep warming up our muscles. This time I'm gonna cue a little bit less. All right, so right leg lifted, runner's lunge, pull up to crescent lunge. Warrior two, and windmill the arms down. Pull forward, low plank, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. All right, other side. Left leg. Runner's lunge, lunge. Warrior two. Down to a high plank, to a low plank. Upward facing dog to downward facing dog. All right, one more time. Right leg forward in runner's lunge. Lift up into crescent lunge. Rotate into warrior two. Windmill your arms down. High plank, low plank, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Last side, left leg between your hands. Lift up into crescent. Warrior two. Windmill your arms down. High plank, low plank, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. All right, so I'm still recovering from being sick, so if you're anything like me, you're a little warmed up now. So we will go ahead and get into some more stretching. So that was kind of the activating part of the class, just to get things moving. And now we'll stretch them out. All right. So we're gonna go back into downward facing dog. All right. So we're gonna bring the right leg forward back into that runner's lunge. Have your hands on either side of your foot. Drop your left knee down to the ground. And you're gonna go ahead and heel toe your right foot to the right edge of your mat, bringing your right hand to the inside of your right foot. All right, now if this is enough for you, you can absolutely stay here. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, you're gonna drop to your elbows. We'll stay here for 3 to 5 breaths. All right, and if you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can roll on to the right outer edge of your right foot and let your right hip open up so that knee angles more towards the right wall. This is called lizard's pose, and it's a really good hip opener in the front of your right hip and also in the front of your left hip. All right, so bring your hands back in. If you're in lizard's pose, you want to roll back onto your right foot and then heel toe that right foot back between your hands here. All right, so now we're gonna push back and straighten the front leg. We're gonna do half split. You can flex your foot. When you're here in this position, you want to pull your right hip back, pull your left hip forward. Keep your back straight as you can, and your gaze neutral down at your heel. All right, so roll back onto the bottom of your foot, and we're going to press up back into an active runner's lunge. From here, we are going to rotate your back left foot into warrior two. So remember, in this position, you want your heels aligned, and you can absolutely lift up your feet and rearrange. You want your back foot to be parallel with the back edge of your mat. All right, so push forward, make sure that this knee stays over the right heel. From here, what we're gonna do is we're going to shift forward, drop onto your right knee with your right elbow. Lift this arm up over your head and reach towards the front of the room. This should give you a stretch in this side body. The goal is not to do a back bend And it's not to lean forward, it's really just to stretch that left side of your body. All right, we're gonna rotate up, reach forward with your right palm, rotate back. We're doing the exact same thing, but backwards now. So you're still just thinking about stretching this side body. All right. Now, what I want you to do, straighten that front leg. And you're gonna lean forward. This is where your kettlebells or your block come in handy. You're gonna take your block or your kettlebell, place it on the inside of your right foot, and we're gonna lean forward with both legs straight, if you can. Lean forward, place a hand on that block or kettlebell. Look up towards your left arm, and hang out here. This is a good stretch for the back of your right leg. You want to make sure that wherever you are, you're keeping your body mostly over your right leg. You can have your gaze wherever it feels good. I like to look up. It gives me a little twist in my neck. All right. Go ahead and bend that right front knee. And we are going to drop now into those side lunge squats that we did last time. So move that block out of the way. And you're gonna angle your right foot towards the corner of your mat. Lift your left heel and drop down into that squat. You can adjust here as much as you need. You need to pull this leg forward. Make sure here, remember, you're aiming your foot towards that front corner and you're keeping your knee in line with that angle. You can push back on that right knee with your right elbow. Your left leg, you want to be thinking about rotating your knee towards the ceiling. Starts the rotation from the hip. And then that left foot, I like to flex. All right, so we're gonna walk the hands over to the left side. Same rules apply. Left knee, same angle as your left foot. I like to keep my heels on the ground if at all possible. Pushing my left knee back with my left elbow. Rotating my right leg so that my knee is facing the ceiling and flexing my right foot. All right, let's go ahead and walk the hands back towards that front foot. Rotate your left foot in. We're back in runner's lunge with your right foot forward. Now here, you can either take a chaturanga, so dropping down from high plank to low plank, upward dog and downward dog, or you can just pull back into downward facing dog. All right, so now we're going to do everything we just did on the left side. So you're going to bring your left knee forward into that runner's lunge. Drop your right knee down, and now I really hope that I remember everything on this side. Drop your right knee down. You're going to heel toe your left foot towards the left edge of your mat and bring your arms to the inside here. You can stay here if that's giving you enough of a stretch, totally fine. Otherwise, you can drop to your forearms. Something to deepen your stretch is think about pushing your chest forward. That'll help straighten out your back and pull much more of a stretch into your hips. Now, if you wanted to drop into lizard's pose, you're going to rotate onto the outer edge of your left foot and let that hip release open. All right, bring your hands back to the inside here. Roll back onto the bottom of your left foot. Heel toe that foot in between your hands. And now we're gonna pull back into half splits. All right, flex that left front foot. Remember, you wanna think about pulling your left hip back and your right hip forward and keeping your back straight. And your gaze neutral towards your heel. All right, roll down onto your left foot, push forward, and now we're going to lift up into our right leg, so we're back in runner's lunge. Rotate the back right foot, so it's parallel with your mat, and lift up into warrior two. So remember, left knee over the left heel, and not letting your left knee drop towards the side wall. All right, and here we're going to lean forward. Place our left elbow on our left knee. Lift your right arm up over your head and feel a stretch in the right side body. And remember, we're not doing a back bend and we're not leaning forward. Just simply stretching over this right side. Okay, so back up into neutral, lean forward. Do the same thing, but you're going backwards and simply leaning towards your right so that you get a stretch in this left side body. All right, straighten your legs out, grab your kettlebell or your block, whatever you're using for support. Place that to the inside of your left leg, and you can pull your feet closer together if you need to. You're gonna come up here, straighten your arms out, lean forward, and support yourself on the block. Rotating your right shoulder back so that you're parallel to that side wall. And if you want, you can look up towards your hand or you can keep a neutral gaze. Alrighty. So now from here, we're gonna drop into those side lunges, squats, whatever you wanna call them. So left toes towards the corner of your mat, left knee aiming the same direction, pushing back with your left elbow, rotating your right leg towards the ceiling and flexing your foot. All right, go ahead and walk your hands the other side. Same thing, right knee towards the right corner, pushing back with your right elbow. Flexing the left foot and rotating the left knee towards the ceiling, and make sure that rotation starts in your hip. Walk your hands back towards the front of your mat. Runner's lunge. And push back into downward facing dog. All right, so now you're gonna walk your hands towards your feet. Separate your feet hip width distance apart. And we're gonna do gorilla stretch, which is one that we did last time as well. So you're gonna take your hands and stand on them, essentially. All right, and remember, if you need to, bend your knees as much as feels comfortable, resting your chest on your thighs, letting your head drop. And then you're gonna actively pull up in your hands, like you're trying to lift your feet, and then actively try and push your legs back, relaxing your neck and upper back as much as you can. All right, we're gonna loosen that up. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna heel toe both feet to the outer edges of your mat. Now you're gonna drop your hips down between your feet. You're gonna be in a little squat here. Take your hands into prayer position. Push your elbows out into your knees, rotating your legs back. Keep your back straight, your gaze neutral ahead of you, so there's no kinks in your spine. All right, so go ahead and sit back and bring your legs forward onto the mat. Lift up out of your hips so you have all the space you can. Arms up over the head, and we're gonna lean forward for forward fold. Remember, to start, we're going to grab onto our feet if you can. Keep your back straight, bend your knees as much as you need to, and actively pull yourself forward. Remembering to breathe. All right, and now you can relax your feet, relax your back, and rest your head on your knees, bending your legs if you need to. And all the way back up. So now you're gonna bring your knees out, so you're like in butterfly position. Another hip opener here. Bring your heels, your feet together, and pull your heels back towards your body as far as you can. Your knees might be up higher, they might be down lower, whatever is most comfortable for you. Don't force the position. So that might mean that your feet are a little bit farther out, and that's totally fine. Here to start, I want to do a bit of a upper back opener. So we're going to take eagle arms. So bring your right arm under your left arm, connect your elbows, and connect your wrists. And if you can, connect your hands. Make sure that your shoulders are down and your elbows are up, creating space between your shoulders and your ears. This stretch I feel between my scapula, sometimes in my neck, honestly, because I hold so much tension. And before we unwind, if you want, you can round forward, pulling in your stomach, tucking your head towards your chest. Lift back up and unwind. All right, we're gonna do the same thing but the other side. So we are going to bring the right elbow underneath, you're gonna bring your left elbow underneath your right elbow. Connect your wrists and connect your hands. All right, so you want your shoulders down, elbows up, and space between your ears and your shoulders. And just like the other side, if you want to roll down, pull in your stomach, tuck your chin to your chest just for an extra release. Come back up and we'll unwind. All right, so now you'll have your hands on the ground in front of you. We're gonna walk our hands forward and keep your back straight. Feel that hip opening up. All right, now we're gonna roll onto our backs and we'll do the last thing here, which will just be a supine twist. So lie down on your back with your knees bent. You're gonna take your hips, lift them up towards the left side of your mat just a little bit so you have a little bit more space. And you're gonna let your knees drop to the right side. If you want a deeper stretch, you can cross your left foot over your left knee. Put your arms out wide and look towards your left hand. When you're here, you want to make sure that your left shoulder stays on the ground. So that might mean less of a stretch and less of your legs rotating to the side. Just better alignment. All right, so now we're going to rotate the legs back up towards the ceiling. Lift up your hips and shift them over to the right side. Drop your knees to the left. If you want more, you can always cross your left leg or your right leg over your left leg and look to the right. Keeping your right shoulder on the ground. All right, rotate back up. And that's it. You can stretch all the way out if you want. And that's it for the yoga class. I do have one little more tidbit, just a little piece of relaxation. If you want, I recommend doing some legs up the wall. I think that you'll be able to see me when I do this. Basically, I just recommend scooting your tush as close to the wall as you can, putting your legs up, letting them just hang there, putting your arms out, and resting in this position. You can, if it seems daunting to just stay here indefinitely until you feel like coming out, you can set an alarm for about 5 minutes, and then you know that at the end of the 5 minutes, you're done in this position. Don't lock your knees out, make sure that they stay loose. And just focus on your breathing and enjoy laying here. All right. Okay, you guys, thanks for doing this. I hope that it was beneficial for you and you got some good stretching, got moving a little bit, and yeah, have a good rest of your day.